Welcome to the second episode of WRS Champions. Today we'll be focusing on World Race Series 2015, the second ever World Race Series. And this is a very important section of World Race Series history because it brought in many new drivers like Laura Martinez and Nimzi Correa that would compete in the World Race Series for years into the future. To begin, we must set the stage. It's mid-June in 2015 on a hot summer night. It's almost exactly a year after World Race Series 2014 was concluded, where Taylor Kornhoff and the Aqua Turbo won the championship. The World Race Series 2015 was not necessarily meant to start or continue a tradition, but was actually meant to be a special event for a one-year anniversary of the first series. This is why contemporary World Race Series 2014 logos have a one-year anniversary line on them. Only one race was planned for 2015, the least of any World Race Series to date, a title this year will most likely hold forever. In contrast, this race would feature the most competitors in World Race Series history at 84 drivers, surpassing 80 within World Race Series Extreme in 2014. I like to boast that this holds the world record for stop-motion race with the most cars, but in truth only 20 or so of those made it to the finish line, as the large competitor numbers resulted in huge numbers of drivers wrecking throughout the race. Still, if you can find me one more stop-motion race with more than that, then I can safely say I have the world record. Anyways, fun fact, the original World Race Series 2015 video is 4 minutes and 54 seconds long, but the actual race only takes up 2 minutes. The rest is entirely filled with the driver introductions due to the very huge amount of drivers. To additionally set the scene, the race was held in Kennesaw, Georgia, the setting for the finale of World Race Series 2014. There were a whopping 14 teams within this race, each with 6 drivers as opposed to 2014's 4-driver teams. The atmosphere was highly competitive, with each and every driver looking to prove themselves here. The main favorite heading into this race was Taylor Kornhoff, leader of the Streakers, the red theme team. There was also the Diamonds, led by Matthew Kornhoff, the Sunshines, led by Claire Kornhoff, and the Delta Patriots, led by Edward Dumas, all other favorites to win the race. Of course, team play did eventually factor in. All a team really needed to win the series, along with the $1 million prize purse, was for one team member to cross the line first. So if all drivers within a team except for one wrecked in the first few seconds, they still had potential to win the entire race. So the race was set to begin. The Delta Patriots, Rosebuds, Big Blue, and Flash teams were all in the first row. After the green flag flew, it was carnage instantly off the line. Alexander Patrick of the Delta Patriots and Amy Kalaki of the Flash were the first to pull ahead. The first driver to wreck was Kamaria Davis of the Rosebuds. Remember this because it will factor in later. Fun fact, Kamaria Davis has the worst average finish of any driver in World Race Series history, as she competed in only this one race and finished in 84th place, with an average finish of 84th. Going through the next few turns, you can see several drivers wrecking out, but the camera angle makes it seem like they just plopped there upside down, which is something you'll see in a lot of other stop-motion races within the World Race Series. Either way, drivers were spinning out, crashing, and flipping over. Driving in a pack of 84 cars on a huge open racing environment can be compared to racing 10 other people through one of those inflatable obstacle courses. Out of the first turn, Beitu Kai of the Atlanta OGs had taken the lead, with fellow team member Lawrence Cifuentes right behind. After the next shot, former Ghost member Dan Schlekovaki had taken the lead, with Jamel Dumas, Agha Dumas, and Clarence Burns and Tristan Moore neck and neck for second. Back farther into the pack, you can see a lowly underdog, Nimzi Correa, the leader of the Tornadoes team, a rookie too. At this point halfway through the race, she was one of only 2 Tornadoes drivers left on the track, all wrecking early on. The Tornadoes throughout this race averaged a very poor performance, with Nimzi Correa being the only real exception here. So she was the team's only real chance of winning. Meanwhile, Taylor Kornhoff, the championship favorite, was avoiding wrecks and making his way up to the front. In this next sequence, both had broken into the top 10. As the race went on, more drivers wrecked, including Sabal Abdullah, Nimzi Correa's last teammate in the field. At this point, the Streakers were going strong, with Caleb Alabachu, Ioru, Liam McGuire, and Julio Sanchez still all in the race. The only Streakers member that would DNF in this race would be Megan Washington, which would be, sneak peek, future World Race Series 2018 champion. Soon, Tristan Moore was wrecked, approaching the final section of the World Race Series 20. This marked the first and only team to be completely eliminated during the World Race Series 2015, as none of their drivers managed to cross the finish line at the end. Approaching the finish line, Nimzi Correa was leading, carrying her team, while Chloe Kalaki of the Violet Comets was in second, with Claire and Taylor Kornhoff neck and neck among others contending for third place. Also, fun fact, you can see Taylor Kornhoff's World Race Series 2014 Aqua Turbo car hidden in the background here. Almost to the end now, and Taylor Kornhoff and Nimzi Correa had seemingly woken up and broken away from the main pack. Both were neck and neck coming to the finish line with seemingly very similar race cars. The pack followed, where tensions were high and a huge wreck that took out many drivers only half a mile from the finish. And there's the finish line. Yes, it's a ruler, and Taylor Kornhoff is in the lead, and he hits Kamaria Davis's wrecked car from the very beginning of the race, slowing him down and letting Nimzi Correa pass him. And fun fact, you can actually see Kamaria Davis get flipped over by Taylor and continue racing in the opposite direction as if it was still the start of the race and she was going to run the whole course. Unfortunately for her, that would not happen, as the rest of the pack came and ran her over. Meanwhile, Nimzi Correa takes the checkered flag for not only her first win, but also the World Race Series 2015 championship title. Claire Kornhoff of the Sunshines would take third after Taylor, Henry Bryant of the Wave would take fourth, and Clarence Burns of the Diamonds would take fifth, rounding off the top five. Of course, the prizes for the subsequent finishing teams is nothing compared to what the Tornadoes got at $1 million. Most likely split evenly between all of them except Nimzi Correa, who hopefully got a larger portion. So, oddly enough, it was a DNF driver's car that decided the fate of World Race Series 2015. But it's almost fitting that Taylor loses a race because of this after spinning out Stephanie Dumas to win World Race Series 2014's championship. While 2015 is not the greatest championship battle of all time, decided by a one-race dash, it is still a great one to look back on. So after this race, it was over, right? Wrong. In what was to be one of the biggest upsets in World Race Series Championship history until Glenda Akawili, Nimzi Correa was discovered to be utilizing steroids. Though this seemingly would not relate to driving a race car, steroids can greatly increase a lot of the needs of driving for sport, including, but not limited to, arm strength, endurance, and concentration. Drug use is very serious within the real-world realm of motorsports, with NASCAR drivers' careers being ended for much less serious drugs, such as Jeremy Mayfield and Adderall being confused with methamphetamine, among other things. The World Race Series intended to take it just as seriously. As it was quoted from World Race Series 2015 Part 2, as it was to be called, "Don't ask how this affects car racing, but it is in the regulations, so let's do this again." Fortunately for Nimzi, she and her team would get another shot at this. She would also get to keep the series title and the win would stand. But Taylor Kornhoff and the Streakers would get one more go at the title, as World Race Series 2015 Part 2 would be an official rematch. Meanwhile, the Tornadoes could get a chance at a second title. This is the only time where the World Race Series could potentially have given a driver two titles within 1 year. Most likely that will never happen again as well, making 2015 an odd year for the World Race Series, but actually surprisingly competitive. The World Race Series also loves to put on a show, a spectacle if you will, and because of this, 6 additional teams, each 3 drivers each, were added to the roster for this race. Though they could compete for a win, they could not compete for a championship with the Streakers and the Tornadoes, each with 6 drivers each, just like the original race. Additionally, Streakers and Tornadoes did not have to win the event. Simply whichever team had one of their drivers finish the highest, that team would clinch the championship. Of course, going into this race, both Taylor and Nimzi were the favorites anyways. The race would also be taking place in the same location as the first 2 events of World Race Series 2014, Decatur, Georgia. Also, one more thing, none of the additional show teams were carried over from the original race, so they're all original. And now the race was ready to begin. Right off the line, it was Kurt Kornhoff of the Smoky Bandits who took the lead, with Taylor right behind. The pack followed, with Megan Washington wrecking right off the line. Unfortunately, this sealed her title as one of the worst World Race Series drivers of the stop-motion era, and by far the worst Streakers driver. Taylor soon took the lead from Kirk, with Matthew Kornhoff and Janet Kornhoff right behind. Meanwhile, Nimzi Correa struggled to gain any ground. Bobby Kornhoff of the Smoky Bandits would next take the lead, but then wrecked after her hood flew open, causing additional crashes. Due to this crash, Taylor Kornhoff had slowed enough for the pack to catch up, giving Nimzi her chance. Taylor is then passed by several drivers as well, but nothing would get in his way of keeping the lead uncontested, so he wrecked Charisse Harvey of the Ironsides and Matthew Kornhoff, all while blocking Nimzi's way. Nimzi gets alongside Taylor anyways, and just like in the first race, they're neck and neck to the finish line. And yes, it's a charger cord. And it's a tie, and that's exactly as it stands today. The question was posted at the end of the World Race Series 2015 Part 2 video. Who do you think won, Taylor or Nimsy? Voting was done in the comments, and to this day, Nimsy won by 1 vote. So she is the unofficial 2-time title holder, but in the record books, this is not the truth, unfortunately for her, as it was never determined if officially the votes determined the win. And as such, this is the case with all ties in World Race Series racing history, even though the question is asked at the end of the video for the comments. Both drivers were credited with a win in the record books, and both are officially labeled as potential champions, as well as their team and teammates as well. But no official title has been awarded to this day, over 5 years later at the time of this video's upload. This may suck being inconclusive and may leave some viewers dissatisfied for sure, but the important thing here is that one person came out of 2015 with 1 championship title, and that's Nimsy Correa and not Taylor Kornhoff. And on that bombshell, the World Race Series 2015 as a whole was over, as well as the World Race Series stop motion era, and really my childhood as well. And next up is the first year of the 3D era of World Race Series competition, the World Race Series 2016. This is to me one of the best World Race Series years ever, and the one I look back to even now for inspiration and nostalgia when making racing videos. Can't wait to see you there.